Good evening and welcome to On the Spot. My name is Joel Senyonyi. Tonight we speak to Dr. Kizza Besigye. Just this evening, Gambia got to have a new president, but not sworn in on the country's territory, at least within the territory, but in another place, which is within the country's territory. That is Dakar, Senegal's capital, at the Gambia's embassy there. Now, some might say this is a little bit resemblant to what happened here in Uganda in the case of Dr. Kizza Besigye, or was that the case? But very critical issues to discuss around democracy here in Africa, the way it does play out. We're also going to talk a lot about local politics here in Uganda and how it is tethered to the man, Dr. Kizza Besigye. That and more coming up on the Spot. Dr. Kizza Besigye, good evening and welcome to On the Spot.
A very good evening to you and good evening to all the viewers and listeners out there.
I'm sure you were keenly watching what was happening, what's been happening in Gambia over the past couple of weeks and days, and what has been happening in Senegal today, Dakar, as Gambia's new president got sworn in. Of course, the other one is still, some will say, defiant. That is Yahya Jammeh. And some have tried to make a resemblance, a connection between what has happened with the case of Gambia and what happened in your case. You did swear yourself in shortly after our elections. The Gambia's new president now has been sworn in too as president, and legitimacy is all over the place, at least here in Africa, internationally. Everybody is conceding that this is the new president of Gambia. That did not happen in your case. Why do you think there is a difference? The international community, African Union, and everybody are saying Adama Barrow is the legitimate president of Gambia. In your case, that has not quite happened.
Yes, thank you. And really, it's not a good moment, I think, for any person who has a claim to Africa. It's not something to be proud of, what is going on, from whichever side you may stand. I think the fact of the matter that such things are happening on our continent is a sad commentary, having, claimed that Africa now belongs to Africans, that we have got independence from those who dominated us, and that this is how we are managing it. It is even sadder, I think, more sad for the people of Uganda to witness such things, because mark you, in this country, and very closely similar to what is happening in Gambia, we have not had any single peaceful transfer of power from one leader to another. Yahya Jammeh, the gentleman who is just being pushed out of Gambia, took power by force of arms. He was never elected to become a president. He took power by force of arms. Again, you can say, resembling what happened here. Mr. Museveni did not become a president through an election. He participated in an election which did not make him a president. He came to the office through force of arms. Of course, later on, he took off the uniform and put on those white garbs you've been seeing. Very much the same way as we saw Mr. Museveni sometimes in his case remove the uniform and put on the kanzu, which is our traditional dress here, and start organizing elections that are, for all intents and purposes, a facade. Now, I think the distinction that in this case, and we must give credit, I think, to the institutions in Ghana, in Gambia, is that they had an election where the Electoral Commission actually was able to announce somebody on the opposition as the winner.
I understand the EC chairman was actually at the swearing-in ceremony.
And of course, having made that announcement, the chairman of the Electoral Commission is in exile. and every other person who has been dissociating himself from Jammeh is in exile. But at least we had, and that is the defining difference between what is happening in Gambia and what is happening here, is that in Gambia there was actually an announcement by a state institution that the incumbent had lost. And it was even more dramatic that the incumbent himself congratulated the winner before doing what he's doing. But the critical matter is that, and I think this is what everyone should focus on, is the state of the citizens' role in these countries, whether their will really matters.
Dr. Kizza Besigye, I wanted to draw your attention to the aspect of away from Uganda, because you see we don't live in solitude as a country. We've got neighbors. In the case of Gambia, they've got ECOWAS, there's African Union, there's international community, and then everybody has come in to render support, if you like, to the incoming president now, Adama Barrow. In your case, that did not quite happen. Yes, you will say the EC did not announce, etc., etc., but if it is the case, like you say, there were issues, etc., etc., you have said severally that you won the election. Nobody has come in to buttress this. The East African community.
Yes, and that is where, and it's a sad thing, because
you see, are you saying there's double standards?
I wouldn't say that, but you see, what is African Union, for example? African Union are the African states, the same African states, the Yaya Jammehs of Africa constitute the African Union, and they are the ones you would be expecting, therefore, to to criticize and to take a position. I don't know how many have, even as we talk. I know certainly that Botswana has, as usual, come out and say we cannot recognize anymore that gentleman. I'm sure it is going to take a very long time. Has Uganda recognized the new president, to your knowledge?
We are yet to hear.
So, the thing is that the African Union, regrettably, is still predominantly populated by regimes that are themselves undemocratic. And I have been raising...
About the international
and I've been raising one of the issues relating to the Constitutive Act, the law that governs the African Union. It puts a lot of emphasis now, and again, to their credit, because it wasn't so before, not respecting people who come into office unconstitutionally. If you make a coup or whatever and declare yourself a president, they are compelled not to recognize you according to the African Union statute. However, if you stay in office unconstitutionally, there is nothing within the statute, within the Constitutive Act, that compels them to declare you not recognized. So people have been violating their constitutions, as indeed has happened even in our own country. And there is no comparison on the part of the African Union to say you have violated your constitution, you are no longer in office in accordance with your own constitution, and therefore we cannot recognize you. And that's what the African court should also be having mandate to judge whether these governments are observing their own constitutions. Look at what happened here. Immediately after the election, you know very well that according to our constitution, the last say on our elections is not by Mr. Kigundu or the Electoral Commission. It is by the Supreme Court. It's the one that has power to have the last say on the elections. And the person to move the Supreme Court is a candidate that is aggrieved by what the Electoral Commission says. In our case, from 19th of February, even before the Electoral Commission announced the result, I was under illegal detention. I could not even access my lawyers. And the Constitution provides only 10 days in which a candidate can raise an objection to what has been announced. For the 10 days, I was under illegal detention. The whole country knows that. my lawyers were being stopped from coming to see me in the full view of all the cameras. So what was happening was violation, direct violation of the Constitution in relation to the election. You cannot say you arrest somebody and stop them from using the constitutional rights to determine what has happened in an election, and then you go ahead and swear yourself in as the rightly elected president. So this is why we say, even in Uganda, there is the election of 2016 is not yet concluded.
It's not yet concluded, and because of that, you did announce the defiance campaign.
And that Mr. Museveni assumed office through violation of the Constitution, which the African Union should have a say on.
Let me ask this.
If you perpetuate yourself in office in violation of the Constitution, then surely there should be a mechanism within the region, or even the sub-region, the East African.
Dr. Kizza Besigye, after the election, you did say that you actually won the election. Do you still hold by that?
Absolutely, without any question.
I remember having a chat with you, interviewing you about this same question, and I was saying, all right, you say you won the election, I'll ask the same. Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, His Excellency, will say he won the election, and he will give you proof. He will say, look, the Electoral Commission announced me, gave me 5.9 million votes, and let me just build this up, Doctor.
Yes.
Now, regardless of what happened along the way, see, our Constitution says the Electoral Commission is the one to announce the final winner. There were irregularities, even according to court, there were issues. He said the Electoral Commission was incompetent. Let's even imagine, for assumption's case, that the whole election was actually rigged. He has got what he does have to show for proof that this is what shows I actually won. So when you say you won the election, what's your basis, Doctor?
I have what to show as proof.
Where is it then?
In my hands. So but whom do I present it to? To determine whether it is false or true. The Constitution provides whom I should provide it to. That is the avenue that I was blocked from accessing.
How about the millions of voters, the people that voted for you, at least according to the IFI 3.5 million,
even if I
you have told them you won. Do you not think you owe them a duty to say, look, we won. This is how we won. Do you not owe them that duty?
I can do that. It is going to remain a debate. Because they cannot constitute a judgment. Now, how do they judge? Do they judge by a referendum to say they believe me or they don't believe me? That's why there are institutions to determine. Of course, I can sit and present my case. How will every Ugandan make a judgment on my presentation? We need a forum that can make a judgment that is binding. Quite obviously, even now, that's what, if we are talking about public opinion, and that's why we have said we will go ahead and demonstrate that we have the support in our country, people who believe that we actually won. You see, this is, even when we talk about the defiance, you are talking about defiance in Senegal, in Gambia. This gentleman whom you say is now being recognized as the person who is the president of Gambia. He's not in Gambia. The executive powers in Gambia, even as we talk, are being exercised by somebody else. So the question is, how do you align people's will with what it is intended for? And that is the controversy that we have here. When we say we are running even now a people's government, we are saying people gave us mandate. We still uphold their mandate. And if you want to contest whether they gave us our mandate or not, let's provide a mechanism that shows whose mandate it is. We've been demanding for an audit. If you are not willing to conclusively make a resolution on this, then continue exercising your power, which we challenge as illegitimate, and we will continue calling on our people to indeed work with us to assert their will.
Dr. Besigye,
which is what exactly we are doing.
The people that you say you have been calling on to assert their will, Some people feel this is a head-banging project, and this is what they say they think is the reason for it being a head-banging project. You did, at least according to the East, you got 3.5 million votes. You say you got way more than that. And the question that lingers in the minds of many a person is that if the support was actually as overwhelming, if there were millions of people, why are they not coming out to heed to your call for defiance, to say, look, let's stamp our ground? It has happened in some other African countries.
You see so how it happens,
how come it's failing here?
Cannot be uniform. Mr. Museveni, as I have told you, participated in an election in 1980 and lost. In his case, he didn't even question the losing. He lost. That time there was no presidential election. It was a parliamentary system. He lost to Mr. Sam Kutesa. I have never heard him saying that Sam Kutesa stole his votes or that he was rigged out. But nationally, there was definitely contest about who had won that election. And the overwhelming popular view that time, and I was alive and participating in the political processes then, was that the Democratic Party had actually won. But the Democratic Party, the leadership of the Democratic Party went into government, conceded, in other words, conceded defeat and went into parliament as an opposition. Mr. Museveni, who had lost, rallied the will of those who did not support what was going on and used it to overturn what had happened. That is exactly what happened in 1980. Now, because the people did not spontaneously rise on December, was it the 11th, or when the election took place, and say we did not vote you people who are in office, did not mean that they did not have their will and could not assert it.
I need to take a break, but before I do,
they asserted it that time violently.
And you were part of that?
Yes, and I was very much part of that, violently. It took 5 years for that assertion to be realized. So
and this has taken coming to 15 years now, way over 15
In our case, we have chosen not to use violence, but certainly to struggle so that the will of the people is asserted.
Doctor, severally you have expressed frustration and disconsolateness. You have said that, look, some people do not get it. You know, especially you've castigated the elite and you say they don't seem to get it. They're frustrated and so on, but they're not coming on board. They're not heeding to your call. And one would wonder, what do you think is causing it? Is it that they probably don't believe you much enough, or they feel they are actually powerless?
No, I think it is not constructing the question appropriately if you zero it on me.
That's my question. So
yes, the situation is not related to what I say or what I don't say.
I'm talking about just those that you call out on, at least, based on your campaign.
Yes, the situation here which every person should discuss is whether power resides or is exercised by the majority of the people of Uganda, whether it is exercised by a few. And if it is exercised by a few and institutions of our country are controlled by a few and not by the majority, the discussion should be how does the majority reclaim power from the few that are dominating it? That is the question here. And some people suggest that that can be done by persuasion, that the majority can plead with the few who are dominating the power using guns, that really this will spoil our country. You can see that it's not reasonable. Please relinquish power and give it to the majority so that we have a stable polity. Some people believe so. Others believe that for the majority to acquire power which was captured from them using force, that they themselves must struggle and pull that power from the few that hold it, that it will take a struggle. Now, when it comes to taking a struggle, and the struggle can be violent or it can be peaceful, In 1980, they took the violent turn. We have been advocating the peaceful struggle. Now, struggle is costly. A struggle entails that those who indeed control the reins of power, monopolize the instruments of coercion, that they will use those instruments to actually repress and harm those who are struggling to take away their power. So people will be arrested, will be killed, will be maimed, to terrorize them to give up the struggle. Not very many people are willing to struggle. So that is where it lies. And people who are not willing to struggle quite often will want to justify why they are not struggling. And so, and this is what we are witnessing here.
All right, let's take a break. I will clearly build up on this subject matter. When we get back from the break, a plethora of other things that we shall talk about. There's been the army reshuffle. He's been in the army, retired colonel now. His take on it. There was talk about the Mohozi project. Some feel it has begun to settle in properly, and we are going to see a lot more of it. Others feel, wait a minute, this is just another of those reshuffles. His take on that plus a lot more. That's coming up when we return. Welcome back to On the Spot. On the Spot tonight is retired Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye, and we are talking everything. Governance here in Uganda, on the African continent, and how it plays out in his particular situation. Doctor, you seem to have a love for Ghana. The other day you were just in Ghana as the new president took office. We were bantering during the break. I was asking you about whether or not you're following soccer. Clearly you're rooting for Uganda. And if for whatever reason we fail to make it, you are still with Ghana. But your relationship with Ghana politically, you went there, and of course you have been in the struggle with this gentleman. Some have said that the population in Ghana has risen up. They have risen to the occasion. Others have said it is probably the system. In our case, where exactly is the problem? Because before we took the break, we're talking about the elite that you have oftentimes and not castigated and said, look, you people need to wake up. You do not seem to get this. You need to be a part of the struggle because it benefits you too.
Yeah.
What are they getting right that we are getting wrong, you think?
No, they have, I think the greatest majority of the population of Ghana has been active in working for the changes that they now enjoy. Changes do not just come on their own. Even the terrible situations we have now have many things that are better than before we went to the bush. So, and you know, I hear sometimes people talking about peace ushered in by whatever. These, whatever changes there may be now, which were not there, did not come by themselves. They come through struggle. And the people of Ghana passed through very difficult times, as you know. They had military coups, they had regimes that were quite autocratic, but they really struggled and created an environment now where the people's will cannot simply be ignored. And we are very proud of Ghana. It's now holding a shining torch for Africa, because it's not just even about having a peaceful change of government, but it's even more difficult having change of ruling parties. Because, for example, in Tanzania, they have been having change of government, and they are retired presidents in Tanzania, 3 of them, I think. But all of them are from the CCM.
Is that a bad thing if everything is being done right?
You may say it's not a bad thing, but it points to some problem somewhere, that you know, you are not able to have real contest. It's real contestation that causes changes and development to take place. This is why I say that changes come through struggle. And when you see one party in power for 50 years, 60 years, then there is a problem regarding the accountability issues. And in Ghana, they have demonstrated that ruling parties actually change. And we need to learn a lot from them. Because like now, the ruling, the party in opposition, which was the ruling party then, had to go through a certain process to hand over power to the to the current government, which process we don't have even in our laws. If I was indeed recognized and power had to be handed over to me, how does it happen? How does the handover take place? How does the shift from one regime, from people that were appointed by one government, hand over to others? There is no mechanism in our situation. They have developed all that through struggle. And now, you know, things happen because everybody expects them to happen. And there is no animosity. There is a lot of contestation, but I was, you know, very pleasantly, you know, surprised that, in fact, one of the first executive decisions that President Nana Akufo-Addo made was to appoint his predecessor to represent him on the summit of the ECOWAS when they were going to discuss about Gambia. He said, you have been engaged with this process. I am just new. I don't know what has been going on. Go ahead. When he had just lost power to him. That shows you that they have really made, you know, strides. But strides they have earned. And we would have to earn. And we have, you know, wherever we are in our politics, we have earned it. It has not come by itself.
You talked about ruling parties remaining in power even sometimes when the leader does change, in the case of Tanzania and so on. In our case, there are challenges without a doubt, you know, because ruling parties, not just here, but even around, they will use state resources, etc., to entrench themselves. But the spotlight then gets to be on the opposition where you come from. And some have said, all right, granted, yes, there are issues on this end, use state resources, etc., We see it all over the place. But how organized is the opposition? The party you come from, the Forum for Democratic Change, for example, has struggled quite a bit. This is Chinyankore saying, since you come from there, mwaishwe kabwasesire, loosely translated to mean you have covered yourself after daylight has broken. You've gone to bed at 8 p.m., you intend to wake up at 6 a.m., but then you wake up at 5 a.m. and realize that I've not covered myself, so at 5 a.m. you remember to cover yourself.
Yes.
And people have said that is the challenge that is with the opposition. And in your party, people have said that as General Muntu is trying to build structures, etc., you don't seem to be keen on doing that. And even if all was clean and everything was smooth, because there are no structures, you just cannot make the cut.
You see, again, it is the justifications that I talked about that are made by sections of the elite that are hiding their heads in the sand. Is it not a fact, a statement of fact, Doctor, that there are no stable structures? The fact of the matter is that there is no multi-party dispensation. That is the fact of the matter. That we have a military dictatorship just clothed in some civilian attire. That is the fact of the matter. That all state institutions are controlled by the dictatorship, run by the dictatorship. Whether it's Bank of Uganda, which is supposed to be an independent authority and not under the direction of any person or authority, you know that Mr. Museveni writes to the governor, I am directing you to give Joel Senyonyi 20 billion, and you will go smiling to the bank and they give you the money. That has been happening, don't you know it? So there is no independent state institution. The director of public prosecution is supposed to be an independent authority, not under the direction of any person or authority. You know that that's not the case. So we are living in a dictatorship, military dictatorship, where power was not transferred to the current rulers by the people. In other words, the people did not have it, where they captured it and have retained it using force of arms. So for people to think that there is a multi-party dispensation, you are talking about a ruling party and the opposition and how the opposition should work as if there is some freedom in which they work. So this is why
things are not going to be given to you in a silver platter. In fact, the struggle becomes more successful when you go through a couple of challenges and then you transcend.
Absolutely, but we must frame the struggle properly. You cannot frame the struggle as if it's a struggle that is going to be won in an ordinary election. that you are preparing for an election. I hear, though, people talking about we are not effective in presenting the alternative, and I don't know what, and talking as if there is a dispensation that allows free competition, and that indeed people will come out willfully, make their decision be respected. That's not the case. Mr. Museveni indeed did not have structures in 1980. He did not become a president through organizing structures and doing whatever these people are talking about, developing the alternative agenda and so on.
And
he did not appear, you hear people saying, if you want changes, go to parliament. Get your people win, and they go to parliament.
Is that not
Mr. Museveni,
Mr.
Museveni's party, which was my party, UPM, we did not have people in parliament, not even one. Did not stop him becoming a president. Indeed, those who are elected from the parties, what has been happening to them? DP had, I think, 24 MPs in 1962. What became of them by 1966? They had all crossed to UPC. Why? The question is that, these are not institutions that are functioning democratically, that are based on people's will, that are controlled where all those people who were crossing from DP to UPC were not doing so with the mandate of the people who had elected them.
Doctor, all that you say is totally granted without a doubt. Anybody that has been here for quite a while will not only agree, but they will concede that all this has happened. But then again, you seem to dismiss it when they castigate you, and sometimes rightly so, when they say that, look, there are challenges with the system.
Yes.
There is totalitarianism,
yes.
the misuse of resources, etc., etc.
Yes.
But let's for a second put the torch on the opposition from which you come, and they say, look, can you get a little bit more organized? Can the squabbling stop? In your party, for example, some have said the ruling party now takes advantage of the challenges that you do have. You actually heal the squabblings. Some are for building institutions and the structures. Others are for protests and so on. And why would they take advantage of that?
Let me tell you, Joel, every dictatorship thrives on three main legs. One is terror, to cause people to fear. Two is renting support, patronage, because they dominate the control of resources. They use those resources to rent support, to bribe people, to hire people. Hire people whether they are in the opposition or wherever. Thirdly, controlling and dominating the communication and information. Propaganda. A lot of what people repeat is simply state propaganda. Saying there is squabbling in FDC. Of course, political parties are parties that are built for contestation within themselves. We are not like NRM, where there has never been any contest for the leadership of NRM since it was started as an organization in 1981. Since it was started 36 years, nobody has ever challenged Mr. Museveni for the leadership of NRM. Those who have tried, you know what has happened to them. In our case, it is a must. We must contest for those who lead the organization. We must contest for those who represent the organization in other areas. Contestation means that you have different views on who should lead and what they stand for. So having contests within a political organization is the most natural thing. It doesn't mean there is squabbling. It doesn't mean there is a problem. The only thing that defines what is a good organization from a wrong organization is how the contestations are managed, whether they are managed democratically or not. In our case, we manage all our contradictions or contests transparently and democratically. If we want to choose a leadership, we campaign in the whole country transparently. We go to Lugogo, we call the whole media, we debate in front of all the cameras, our delegates vote without any kind of, nobody anyway has what it takes to force them. We don't have guns or anything. They go and vote in the full view of the media, and what emerges is what the party goes with.
Doctor,
so there is no squabbling. I want you to understand that contests within organizations, different views within organizations are perfectly healthy. Secondly, some of the voices you hear in these organizations is because we are not in a democratic dispensation. We are struggling to be a democratic organization within a dictatorship, which, as I have told you, retains power by renting support. So you'll find that some of our members are rented by the dictatorship. That's an open secret.
Doctor, what you blame President Museveni for being in the NRM, a preponderant figure, patronizing everybody, he's been there, and the party literally rotates around him. Some have said you are that with the FDC. Yes, there will be change of party president and so on, but everything seems to rotate around you, and you have not done much to extricate yourself from that. Because for as long as the struggle rotates just around you and not many other people come on board, then you struggle alone in solitude, and that's the challenge.
No. Anybody who advances that, I have said before, should be held in contempt. Why? Because first, the reason, in fact, we even want term limits for the executive is that somebody who is holding executive power of government has a lot of tools to unfairly influence situations, to frighten, to arrest people, to close their bank accounts, to do all kinds of things that hurt people. In our situation, no, I don't have any coercive mechanism. So if I have any influence, it is not out of coercion. At least I would like anybody to suggest that I have influence because of coercion. I don't.
But what they say is that you frustrated the building of structures. So that it
cannot be true. And you see, if anybody, first of all, if the reason we fight for free environment, freedom of association, if you think that what is happening in FDC is not the best thing, start another organization. Run it better. Then people will march there and will abandon a bad organization. That's why there should be competition. That's the whole essence of freedom of association. So if you think that we are not organizing well in FDC, why should you remain a commentator? These people are not organizing well. You organize.
Doctor, you can't always run away from problems. You can say, this is my home. There are issues. Let's talk about the issues. Let's deal with them. As opposed to an issue has come out, let me run away and form another.
Well, you see, either become part of FDC and resolve the problem in FDC, or if you are not able to do so, like we were not able to do so within NRM, some of us, because of course NRM was simply using coercive mechanisms. If Mr. Museveni did not have guns, we would have removed him from the leadership of NRM. In my case, as I have told you, right now, I do not sit on any organ of FDC. FDC makes decisions where I am not. FDC has carried out a fresh election of its leaders from the bottom to the top after he left office. So, the way decisions are made in FDC, even when I want to subject myself to the structures of FDC as a candidate, I don't control any of the processes within FDC. So anybody can compare me with Mr. Museveni, who controls the party from A to Z, from the time it was set up to now, is really totally lost. Now, the question is, if I have influence, and it is influence that is legitimate, what's wrong with that? Why does anybody have issue with anybody that has influence? And if you are not satisfied with the way I am using the influence that I have, then seek to take it away through democratic and political means.
Let's take another break, Doctor. When we get back, we've been talking about, promising people will talk about the army reshuffle. I'll definitely put that to you, and we'll also get to hear from you, our viewers, your thoughts on what we are discussing. Let's take this break. We'll be right back shortly. Welcome back to On the Spot. With me on the spot is Dr. Kizza Besigye, and we're talking everything governance here in Uganda and beyond. Doctor, last week it was, yes, the Honorable Odonga Otto was disappointed. He said, wait a minute, how can Dr. Kizza Besigye's wife, it's a murder case, we'll not go really into the details of it, otherwise that would be sub judice, but he was frustrated, and he was saying, wait a minute, we have been in this struggle with Dr. Kizza Besigye, but now he seems to be turning against us, and several other things that he did say. Is one of your party members that have expressed disappointment and disconcertment, and the other, of course, is the Honorable Beatrice Anywa. What do you make of statements such as this coming from one would think, in a way, pillars of this your party, and they're saying, look, we are even going to quit the party? I don't know whether he means it. He said many things that eventually he changes his mind about, but what do you make of that?
No, I think you know what transpired in respect of that case. As you say, I wouldn't, you know, want to go into the merits of what was going on in court. But I think what we have to grapple with as a country is the whole question of sectarianism, tribalism, nepotism. That is, without doubt, a very serious problem. It is a problem that causes anger, and it's a problem, if not addressed appropriately, can lead to national disasters, however coached. What we saw in Kenya in the election of 2007 was tribally driven. We've seen genocide in our neighborhood. So these questions are extremely important, and they should not just be swept under the carpet. What we have in our country now is a very pregnant environment charged with sentiments of tribe. And these sentiments have been nurtured and watered by leaders. Certainly, in the last 31 years that Mr. Museveni has been running the country, tribalism, nepotism, sectarianism has escalated. Mr. Museveni is an interesting person. You know, it's like he lives a double life.
But how does this play out in this particular scenario?
I'm going to show you how it plays out, because you see, it is the whole thing about what happened in court was the sentiment that there are some people who are above the law, who can kill others and get away with it. And those are the privileged people, privileged tribes, which can kill other tribes. That is the sentiment. And I'm saying that this has been nurtured, watered, to bring it to where it is. And we must diffuse it as a country. Because first of all, it's not really driven by the correct drivers. Although everybody believes that, you know, the West, Banyankole, they are the problem. Everything is going to Ankole. Look at all these government jobs. It is Mugisha, whatever, you know, these are the people who are occupying more influential jobs. And it's true. If you also see what is the picture in terms of influence in the country, places, once you don't have the right systems and structures, that is bound to happen. Because in this country, nobody gets a job transparently and in a known process. You hear somebody is now appointed head of revenue authority. Everybody knows all our money is collected by revenue authority. And revenue authority head can choose to allow somebody to become very rich by not paying taxes, or to kill them by imposing terrible taxes on them. It's a tool of oppression. How does one become head of revenue authority? How is it accountable? How does one become the governor of the Bank of Uganda? How does one become the head of all these influential things? And once you are the head, how do you recruit people under it? We've been talking about the military, the same. How does one join the military and know that if I do the ABC, I will be a general at this time? Once you don't have systems, which is what Mr. Museveni has killed, then you are bringing this whole thing of people. And indeed, once you don't have systems yourself, you are bound to be irrational in how you appoint people. Indeed, trying to look for loyalty, people who will preserve your power.
But you see, in this particular case that I wanted to get to, did you feel that Odonga Oto was being unfair to you as a person because he was tethering it to, you know what, you did not prevent your wife from coming and standing surety and so on? Of course, that's a legal matter and it's provided for and so on. But now the frustration is being poured out towards you.
I mean, Odonga Oto, what I'm saying, is a product of this unfortunate situation. First of all, he believes that a husband should control his wife and determine what the wife says or does, and if he doesn't, then he's a weak and not a worthy husband. That is, I think, what advises Odonga Oto's worldview. He does not know that women have as much right and freedom as their counterparts, as their spouses, and that they are free to exercise those rights as they see them, and that indeed you cannot hold somebody accountable for another person's actions. Although he claims to be a lawyer, you know, he clearly, what advises his worldview is completely different. But I understand it, that is where he's coming from. This is not the first time. Even last time when Mama Mbabazi was a candidate, you remember he carried coffins in his place there and said if Mama Mbabazi comes to his place, they are going to, you know, cause trouble. Even at that time, he said, these Besigye, we are fed up with them. Now, that part of that, I think, has political undertones, which again are understandable.
All right, Doctor,
I've told you that the power of the dictator is to cause people who are in organizations that challenge him to do what the dictator wants.
We need to let our viewers participate in this, but before we do, let's talk about the army reshuffle. You were in the army, you retired. There was a time when the Muhoozi project talk was all over the place. And some have said, look, this is very strategic. Major General Muhoozi has not been demoted from being head of the SFC to now being a presidential advisor. It's tactical. They're now trying to get him to the political line. But then others have asked, okay, if this, for example, is what had happened to General Katumba Wamala, from being, CDF to being an advisor, would you folks not look at it as a demotion and so on? How do you see all this?
Again, you see, one needs to look at the institution. That institution is not run as a professional, disciplined force that it should be. It's not. It's run as, simply something that is owned and controlled by Mr. Museveni. In fact, against the law. Because what makes a disciplined force one that is called a disciplined force is that it's run by set standards and regulations and procedures that are strictly adhered to. Now, this is a force where people get recruited not accordance with the law. And I have had occasion to point this out, including Mr. Muhoozi himself, now General Muhoozi.
The CDF.
Muhoozi, the CDF? No.
There's David Muhoozi, General David Muhoozi, the CDF.
Yes, it's
and there's Major General.
It's all confusing. General Muhoozi. The Muhoozi, the son of Mr. Museveni. He became a member of UPDF in violation of the law. And I have pointed out which laws were violated.
Which ones are those?
In his recruitment. They are in the terms and conditions for officers of the UPDF, which are the regulations that emanate from the UPDF Act. They spell out how one acquires a commission of the UPDF. Very clear.
Clarify that one, because you've left it nebulous.
It's not nebulous. It's not nebulous. What law was broken? It's not nebulous. I have put it in writing, and Mr. Museveni has had to respond to it, and also acknowledge, I believe, through not responding to the specific provisions that I have pointed out.
And our viewers that you have left in limbo?
Yes, our viewers should not be made lazy. They can look for my document.
But it's good to substantiate things, Doctor.
So I've told you that under those regulations, you have to pass through certain processes to become a recruit of the UPDF, which Mr. Muhoozi did not pass through. And I have spelled out in my document which ones he did not pass through, and how then you become a cadet officer, and how you become commissioned to become an officer of the UPDF. He did not pass through those processes. And I have spelled them out, and I am willing to repeat them 1,000,000 times. Secondly, once you have been recruited, how you access training is not clearly followed. And this is why there is a lot of disgruntlement in all these forces. So somebody gets recruited, he's trained this, tomorrow he goes for the other training, the other day he goes for the other training, while others whom he was recruited with are not able to go for any of the trainings. Then they say this one has been trained, he can be promoted. While the other one who was not trained, not because of his own choice, cannot be promoted. All these factor into, now you saw even these promotions when they were made. They said, now the handover will be supervised by General Saleh and General Tumwine. Supervise how a head of the institution of the UPDF hands over to another person.
I thought the president can delegate to somebody especially of that rank.
Yes, maybe he could. General Tumwine is a serving officer of the UPDF. He's not retired. I don't know whether General Saleh is retired or not retired. That hangs in the balance. Now, so you find that now there are officers of the UPDF who are saluted by the chief of the UPDF, who are above the head of the institution, yet they are serving officers, and are not above the institution because of any other appointment. Because you could be a serving officer, and maybe you have another appointment which puts you higher than the institution. That also is a problem, but it could happen. But I'm just simply saying that every head of the UPDF is below General Tumwine, is below General Saleh. Why? That's a problem.
Doctor, let's open the phone line. We need to hear from our viewers.
We have an institution that is run, like a family business. And that is the problem. And the reason it is so is not because Mr. Museveni does not know the benefit of professionalizing and institutionalizing the institution. It's because he wants it to remain personally loyal. People to remain personally loyal, beholden to him as a person. Because he's the one who determines everything that happens within that institution, including, of course, even retirement. That's why you've been seeing people who have been crying to retire are held hostage.
All right.
within the institution.
Let's open the phone lines. The number to call is going to run on your screen. Please, when you call us, remember to lessen the volume on your TV set. Make your comment as brief as you possibly can so that we can take several. Hello, good evening. Hello?
Hello.
Yes, good evening. What's your name and where are you calling from, Chief?
This is Michael Manje from Kyotera.
Yes, Michael.
You know, I want to be very sincere with Mr. Besigye. I'm calling from Kyotera.
Go ahead, Michael. Make it brief.
I want to be very sincere with Mr. Besigye. The one thing that has killed this country are people talking of legally. Mr. Besigye lost the moral authority of criticizing Mr. Museveni. We refused to step down from Gishamonto to stand as the candidate for FDC. It's like standing for president in FDC just in brackets for Mr. Besigye. If he created for Gishamonto, Besigye, you would be a hero today. As you criticize Museveni that he is not leaving other people, also Museveni is claiming to be president legally. You should stop that thing of legally, and we look at the morals of what we should be followed.
All right. Thank you for sharing your thoughts, Michael. Okay. The number should run on your screen hopefully soon. Hello. Good evening.
Good evening, John.
What's your name, Chief?
Kenneth is my name.
Kenneth. Yes, Kenneth.
Yeah, I want to know when is the doctor retiring, because he seems 15 years.
Retiring from what exactly?
From politics.
From?
And he remain an advisor in FDC because he's blaming His Excellency the President and he's following the same route. So what difference? It's righty.
No, the question is retiring from what? From which office?
Yes, from the office of standing as a president. No,
from the office of standing.
All right, your question is well understood, Kenneth. The doctor will answer that. Hello? Hello, good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
What's your name, sir?
Yeah, I'm called Kitutu Andrew.
Kitutu, where are you calling from, Kitutu?
I'm calling from Sireka Kasokoso.
Give us your brief question or comment, Kitutu.
Yeah, I'm happy to see the president in the studio because this is my first time.
Yes, go ahead.
My question is, yeah, why are they not allowing us? Because even us, we're having our man, and at least let him also be in that position such that we can what?
Which position are you talking about, Kitutu?
Presidency.
The president. Why aren't they allowing him? I thought he's supposed to be voted for as opposed to being allowed. All right. Thank you for sharing that. Hello?
Hello?
Good evening.
Good evening to you.
What's your name and where you're calling from?
I'm called Chintu Fred, calling from Chitende, Tebe Road.
Chintu Fred, give us your quick question or comment.
I salute the president there next to you. Now, to get concerned about what is happening in West Africa, and I'm praising that I mean, it's in the same category like the Eastern.
ECOWAS, you mean?
Yeah, that stuff. So I'm praising it, and I think they're doing a very good role here. So what I'm actually calling upon the president before you there to actually advise, how can we do exactly the same to bring such kind of dictators out of power? Because what is actually being messed up right here in East African community, they think that dictatorship is only meant by maybe war or something like that. But even somebody like President Museveni consolidating himself in the power for more than 30 years is a criminal case.
All right.
It's an offense.
All right. Thank you for sharing that, Chintu Fred. Hello?
Hello?
Good evening, your name and where you're calling from, sir?
Good evening,
brother Joel Senyoni. I'm called Richard Viemaro.
Yes, Richard.
First of all, I salute His Excellency President Dr. Kizza Besigye, who is in the studio with you. Mr. President, first of all, I would like to welcome you back from Ghana, where you actually represented Uganda colorfully. Thank you very much. And your presentation in Ghana yielded results because we've seen another dictator being taken out in Gambia. That's Yahya Jammeh. Now, Mr. President, don't give up, no matter what people say. We've seen people, the man who is leading Senegal right now, tried on several occasions, contested in several elections, but he was rigged out, he was cheated, but finally, he gained what he wanted. Look at the person in Ghana, Nana Addo. He contested in a number of elections, lost out, again came back to win. But for your case, you've never lost an election, I'm telling you. Before I joined you, I was a cadre in the NRM. I was one of the people who were leading the youth in some activities during the election. But I must tell you, you have never lost an election.
Could I ask you a question, Richard?
Yes?
A quick question. Now, when you tell doctor do not give up, I'm thinking, where is your part? What's your role in all of this, besides saying you don't give up, or whoever else that you might choose to support?
My role,
is this to sit back and be a cheerleader?
Yes, my role in all of this. First of all, I defected from the dictatorship. I saw that I could no longer be part of the dictatorship. I'm implementing Uganda. That's why I joined Dr. Besigye to work hand in hand with him so that we depose this monster regime. And it's yielding results.
Okay, thank you.
I tell you, before the end of, before we go into 2021, 7 will be no more.
I see. All right. Thank you for sharing that, Richard. Hello? Hello? Good evening.
Good evening.
What's your name, sir, and where are you calling from?
My name is Peter.
Peter. Yes, Peter.
Yes, can I ask the president a question?
Come again? Ask your quick question. I will make a quick comment, Peter.
Yeah, I wanted to say Dr. Besigye is not...
Sorry, we lost that one. Hello?
Yes.
Yes, good evening.
Yes, yes, from Shema.
Come again. What's your name again, sir?
I'm called Principal from Shema.
Okay, go ahead with your quick question or comment.
Our president, the president of the people, the Sectarianism, and come back to
We're having trouble with your line there. All right, let's pick one final caller for tonight. Hello, good evening. Hello. Good evening. What's your name and where are you calling from, sir? Hello. Okay. Hello, good evening.
I'm called Katamba Moses.
Yes, Moses.
Hello? I'm
yes,
called Katamba Moses.
Matthias. I hear you, Matthias. Give us your quick question or comment.
How are you?
Very well, thank you. I'll go ahead with your quick question.
Katamba Moses from Uganda.
Yes, Matthias, go ahead.
I just want...
Please don't listen to yourself, Matthias. Just go ahead with what you have to say.
Hello.
Good evening.
Hey, good evening. My name is John Vian.
Yes, John.
Let me make my point very clear.
Go ahead.
Most Ugandans have lost hope because dictators normally have one to create a situation of hopelessness in the country. I told people that if Chukwu had stood by his duty and declared the truthful winner of the February election.
Who was that?
If Chukwu had stood, his brother declared Kizza Besigye.
And yes, I was saying that. So who was the winner according to you?
Kizza Besigye definitely was the winner. Even if
what's that based on, Mr. What's that based on, John?
I'm telling you that Kampala would be in jubilation for 3 months. And I'm telling you, one time, if Besigye comes to be the president of this country, you will see
situation. If those NRM will come out, they will show their joy. They will show how they have been imprisoned by the dictator, and they can't.
All right, thank you for that. I think that will do with the call. Let's quickly have Doctor answer these. Michael, Kenneth, Kitutu, resemblant questions, you know, more authority, do you still have it? When are you retiring, etc., etc.?
Yeah, first of all, just to underline what I said earlier, we are not in a dispensation where there is freedom and where people's will can lead to change. It is a situation of struggle. It's very important for people to know that we are in a struggle. We are not just in an area of competition where people just go and cast their votes and go away. That's why even in the last election we said if we are to win, we will win by defiance, meaning we will defy all the injustices that have been constructed by the state and still force the situation to change. It's a struggle. And indeed, those who win, those who are, for example, in parliament, some people have been saying, you know, you don't have members of parliament. The people who are in parliament must be saluted 100 times. They have not won because of a free and fair election. They have won in spite of all the injustices that were mounted on their way. So, I want everybody to understand where I come from. You may disagree with me. That is my position, that we are in a struggle against a military dictatorship. In the struggle against the military dictatorship, every citizen should take part. You cannot say that now Besigye should get out of the struggle. No. And as I have said, I don't hold any position. I asked that gentleman, what do you want me to retire from? He said, retire from contesting. Contesting is not a position. And as I have said, we don't contest because we think the election is going to cause change. We contest as part of the struggle. So, I have said very clearly, when I went to the bush, which is now a very controversial thing, I did not go to the bush to become a president. I went to the bush to struggle to change a system. This struggle is about changing a system, and I have made it very clear that the entire adult life of mine has been spent on this struggle. I am not going to give up now the struggle. The struggle is not for me to become president. Be very clear on this. I have never set out to struggle for an office. In my entire life, you can check me. I did not contest to become a class monitor, a prefect, a student leader, nothing. I've never been in struggles to become a leader.
You've contested for presidency 4 times now.
Yes, as part of a struggle. Remember where it started from? I authored a document criticizing the system. Instead, the response was, I should be court-martialed. And I said, okay, if you want to court-martial me now, let's now come up and challenge you formally and push this system out. So, my contestation for the presidency is not in the pursuit of the office of the president. It is in pursuit of the change of system. And I know how dangerous it is. Some people think it's a cup of tea. It's not like contesting from, you know, protected situation. You have seen how I live in my home. It's not a cup of tea that I enjoy it. It's a struggle. I know that I can die in this struggle. I will be happy to die in this struggle because at least those who have died before me will not say that I have betrayed them.
2 questions that are connected here. Somebody saying Ugandans are hopeless, another saying how can we be like ECOWAS, they have dropped off the hopelessness, and they're saying we'll do something about it.
So from these first 2 people who were questioning, we just differ. Some people think there is no struggle. I believe there is a struggle, and that it is the struggle that will cause change.
All right.
And that I will not leave the struggle. I will not leave the struggle before it is actuated. And once the struggle is achieved, I have made it very clear. You will not see me contesting for office. I'm not in this to contest for office. Now, the question of ECOWAS and East African community is definitely a legitimate one. I think ECOWAS has gone a step further in helping the member states achieve and maintain a certain standard of political management. And they have helped indeed in dealing with serious situations of security within member states, as we've seen in a number of countries. Unfortunately, East African community is not there yet. And I think it should be there, including what I have just said, that the East African community should set standards for its members, so that one who does not fulfill those standards, there are clear consequences, and that they have the capacity to impose those penalties and consequences on members who do not perform. So yes, I salute the ECOWAS, which is helping in that region, not only to maintain peace and security, but also to improve the standards of governance. Now, and there was, of course, the question of, I think it was not a question, an encouragement that we should continue. And, you know, let me, on that question of continuing, simply say this, that people who feel that, you know, I'm not doing justice, first of all, whom did I displace to occupy where you think I am occupying? Did I displace somebody? How? You achieve, I think, support and recognition and influence according to what you do. If you want to occupy the kind of place where I am, do what I have done, or similar to what I have done. You cannot just, you know, go to your library and simply criticize when you are not doing anything yourself. I think every Ugandan has a duty to do something to change these things.
Is probably writing and so on, and this is tethered to many times when you have criticized the elite and you say, yes, look, all you do is make noise on social media and so on.
Yes, you
should everybody hit the streets? Is that how everybody should participate? Because some their power is on social media, some their power is in writing, some the way they will advocate for the betterment of this country is in various forms, and that should be embraced, Doctor.
Yeah, I have no problem with that, but if you are not able to do what somebody is doing, and you are just criticizing, you know, the Baganda say atamukute ya agamba tikwatira daronyweze. The person who is not holding the problem has a tendency of saying, oh, you are wasting our time, you throw that man down and we go. Commentating when you have not tested what it takes to do something or not to do it, is you should know where your limit is. And this is what I am simply saying, that we are engaged, we are having very, very serious problems here. And they affect everybody. We now have a collapsed economy. In fact, those who have been hiding in the comforts of some of those libraries and so on will soon be forced out because of the state of the economy we have today. The economy has collapsed. And
we need to wrap this up, Doctor.
Pardon?
Give me your final thoughts in a minute.
Yeah. First, you know, I would like to thank the people of Uganda, because the people of Uganda, I have never been as optimistic. I said this at the beginning of the day. I've never been as optimistic as I am today. Seeing that the people of Uganda have really woken up in a big way, are aware of the challenges facing our country, and aware that they have to do something themselves. The last election gave me a completely new perspective to see Ugandans for the first time open their bags and give me money and say, let us work together to cause change. become part of the, this is what I mean, not everybody will do what you are doing, but people make tangible contributions to the struggle. I have seen that wherever I go in the country, in spite of the poverty of people. I've seen it in Karamoja, in Kabong, one of the poorest parts of our country. People came out and gave me chicken and gave me money and said, let's work to cause change. This is something to give us hope that Ugandans now realize it's not a Besigye affair, that it is their own affair, and that they will have to change it through their own effort, working together with everybody. So I am, having a lot of hope this year, as we start this year, that time of dictators is coming to an end. Whoever they are, even if it's Besigye who is a dictator. People, this defiance you see, does not stop at anybody. Even now, when we are in our own struggles, people tell me, we will not allow you. We are defying that. People are now charged and empowered. And it's so refreshing.
Look forward to a better Uganda.
Yes, it's refreshing. I think we are heading to a new Uganda, which, as I have been saying, we shall walk with a swagger. We shall walk with a swagger in this country.
Dr. Kizza Besigye, thank you for talking to us tonight.
My pleasure.
All right, and thank you to you all that have been a part of the show. Thank you for your contributions. And like he says, let's make Uganda better. That's it for tonight. Thank you for joining us. My name is Joel Senyonyi.
NTV, turning on your